Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Don't Mess with the Mommas. We are here today with Johnnie Mitchell and Arlaana Black. Johnnie, the last time we met, we talked about our backgrounds, and you share a very unique background that I think many of our listeners are not aware of. You said you come from royalty of the Gullah Geechee culture. I have to admit, when I moved here from New York City to Edisto Island, South Carolina, I had never heard of it, and it is indeed a rich, wonderful culture. Johnnie, please tell us about this incredible and unique culture.
Thank you so much, Arlaana, for giving me this opportunity to share more about our culture because I'm very proud of it. I'm what's called a Gullah Geechee. That means that I am from the area, or now we call it the corridor, that runs from North Carolina to Florida, includes the states of Georgia and South Carolina.
Wow.
And we were the people who were located on the islands, which isolated us from the mainland or the rest of the country.
Yes.
And so we were brought from Africa to run the plantations. We were brought here because of our skills in raising rice.
I see.
And this area is perfect for rice growing. And so we come from mainly West Africa, probably mainly Sierra Leone, but that area.
Yes.
So we were brought here for our expertise. However, as I keep saying, Africa is a continent and not a country. And so we were from different tribes, different areas, had different language, different beliefs, we were different people, even though we looked alike because of our skin color, and we came from the same Africa.
Absolutely.
And so we got here, and the islands were pretty isolated from the Europeans because of the mosquito. The mosquito was very hard on other people, Europeans, and so the Africans, for some reason, we had an immunity to the yellow fever that the mosquitoes gave.
Yes.
So we were put on the islands to do this crop of rice and later cotton. However, we were there coming from different countries, different cultures, different languages, and different knowledge of the world and what it would be like. And so we got here, and in order to communicate, we had to create our own language. And the language is called Gullah Geechee language. We put together African words and as much as we knew, along with some English words, and created what we now know as a Gullah language, which is listed among the languages of the world.
Wow.
And is now taught at Harvard University because it's about to become extinct because now everybody is a part of the America and everybody is speaking English or what we call standard English. However, so the Gullah Geechee are the people who were on those islands. They were there by themselves. They grew the crops and made South Carolina and made that area one of the richest areas of the United States during that particular period of time of enslavement.
Can I just ask you that there's a distinction, right? Gullah and Geechee. Are the Gullah people from one area and the Geechee from another?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that because the people in Georgia were called Geechees, and the people in South Carolina were called Gullahs, and then the people in Georgia called us Geechees, so it's very confusing. So now in 2025, we say Gullah Geechee So it just includes everybody along that corridor.
Sure, that makes sense.
And it turns out that we were doing everything because we had brought a basic idea from African culture with us, and so we reproduced it differently. If you go up and down the corridor, there might be little differences or distinctions between, but it's enough that we speak the language, we eat the same foods.
What kind of foods?
Well, what's known as Southern, when you came from the North and came here, I'm sure you had an idea of what soul food or Southern food.
Yes, of course.
That is Gullah Geechee, okra, tomatoes, seafood, all of the rice. When I was growing up, rice was understood. My mother would say, I'm going to put on the rice now and we'll figure out what we're going to have for dinner, because that was just understood.
Yes.
And so we were pretty much known for the rice eating, the way we talked. So whenever we went outside of our area, that's when we were really hit with, you're different. The way you speak and what you eat and how you say things. And so it was, we always knew that we were distinct, but it's only now that we have retraced our history that we know that we are a people, how we became who we are. And now everybody is enjoying shrimp and grits.
That's right. A great meal indeed.
And when we ate it, it was shrimp and grits. Is that all we have again? And now it's like
The delicacy.
Now I'm saying that, but in a different way. I'm in the fanciest restaurant. It's like fit shrimp and grits is what they're offering me. So yeah. Is there anything else, Arlaana, you would like to know about us? Because I could talk forever about.
Well, I think as we continue our podcast, we can, go into more about education and many, many things.
Now, Arlaana, I would like to hear about your upbringing, because you are the exact opposite. I was in an isolated island with only about 300 people, and you come from New York, which is probably the most urban place in the world, and I come from the most rural of rural. So what was your upbringing? I'd love to hear about that.
Sure, thank you so much. And what's interesting is, even though we're from completely different backgrounds, we have so much in common. Our viewpoints, the way we look at life, our goals, our targets, etc. And believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy, coming from a New Yorker, a Brooklynite, born and raised in Brooklyn, I felt so isolated. Now, isn't that crazy, right?
Yes.
Because my upbringing was kind of unique. I'm going to start with when I was 7 months old, I had 107 fever, so I really wasn't supposed to live. And I spent most of my childhood in and out of hospitals to get cardio catheterizations to see if I needed heart surgery. So somehow, believe it or not, that left me feeling I didn't have a sense of freedom. And I really think about that word all the time. What is freedom? There are so many levels of freedom. There's physical freedom, there's spiritual freedom, there's mental freedom. So I think that when I was really little, I wanted to have a sense of freedom, which meant that when I was in the crib, I used to strip my clothes off, and I was butt naked, and my mother put back my clothes, and I guess I was very hot or something, and I used to strip my clothes off, etc. Then when I was 3 years old, I ran away from home. I was ready to be on my own because I felt so confined. It's very strange. I can't even explain it. I was just a different kind of a kid. And even in school, I felt there was so little diversity, even though now Brooklyn is the mecca of every ethnicity you could possibly imagine. But when I was going to school, we were either white and Jewish or white and Italian, and there was like one student who was African American. So I felt isolated. I felt like I didn't have the diverse experience that I really wanted in my life. So, believe it or not, I too felt like I had to branch out. And then my mother, who, had many, many nervous breakdowns, all hospitalized, and my father pre-dementia at age 40, I used to sing all the time around the house, and I used to pretend to be an opera singer. And one day I asked my mother, you think I could be at the Metropolitan Opera House? And she was always worried not to give me too many expectations because she was concerned about my health. So she kind of discouraged me. And I think that really left me feeling depressed and that I needed to branch out. And my way of branching out was education. Because when I was little, I thought I was mentally challenged, even though I was really smart, because I had such severe headaches. I had many, many, many food sensitivities. So I had such severe headaches that I couldn't read at all. I could never concentrate on a book. And that was my dream, to be able to read. And I used to get sick with unknown causes for weeks at a time. So even though, we have such different backgrounds, I too felt a lack of freedom and a lack of, and I felt isolated in many ways. But I know you and I share a common goal for education. And I know you said something about it wasn't until you got to Spelman College that you realized Gullah Geechee was unique. So maybe you want to tell us a little bit about why you felt education was the way forward.
Thank you again.
And thank you.
Well, on Hilton Head, as I think I mentioned in the beginning, that I became aware of myself and thought that maybe the stork had made a mistake and it dropped me in the wrong place. So I always had that feeling, and it was this idea that my family on both sides, my mother and my father, was that this is our present situation, but your life is going to be different and better.
Yes.
And education was the way. And I was like the manifestation of that. So being as poor as we were, it was the idea that somehow education would be the rope to this new existence.
Yes.
And it's still mystical to me how I was able to use education, even though my parents and foreparents all believed that that was going to be the way to do it. But I would have to say that that's where it becomes where it's the individual.
Yes.
And I know this is a G-rated program.
Yes. Maybe.
Okay, so I'll keep it G-rated as much as I can. But on this island where we were isolated, in order to go past the 8th grade, you had to leave the island and go to another place to go to high school, starting with the 9th grade. And so the boys told us that if you didn't have sex, you would go crazy.
Wow.
And so I was one of the ones that didn't believe that. And so they would say I went crazy.
Good for you.
And so I got to go to the school off the island. So I get to the school off the island. I take the test. They wanted to see, because they're like, you came from backwoods place where we know you need to probably repeat a grade or something. And so we took the test, and then the teacher came running. She's like, you scored what you should score when you're finishing high school.
Wow.
So we can't keep you here for years. So at that time, you had to have a certain number of credits in English.
Yes.
And so they fixed it where I did the 9th grade, and then I went to Savannah that summer to get the English credit for the 10th grade, and then I skipped up to the 11th grade and then to the 12th. So it was then that I knew it was like I'm getting a path to this education that my family wanted me to be able to have.
Good for you. Wow.
And then at 16, I was having my family to try to figure out, where is Atlanta? How do you get there? And we had a cousin who had a car who knew how to get to Atlanta, and
for Spelman College.
And went to Spelman.
Wow. So in my experience, my parents did not have money at all. We were one of the poorest, just because my parents were working class people, and because of all the illnesses, they weren't really able to secure a job that paid very much at all. So I always felt that I had to really struggle in school, even though I had these terrible headaches, and it seemed like my sister was able to just easily get good grades without making much effort, but I knew that I had to make tremendous effort. And when I was in middle school, in those days it was called junior high school, in order to skip a grade, like you did, I had to write a paper, and then the paper was we just needed to write 10 pages and whatever topic. And I don't know what possessed me, but I chose the caste system in India. And I got so into it, I wrote 100 index cards, and I wrote a 30-page paper. And I remember when I finished that paper, I was so angry at the injustice, because that's what motivated me throughout my life and still does, a sense of freedom and justice. So I felt there was so much injustice that I think eventually that did lead me to begin practicing Buddhism, where every single human being is embraced and every life is embraced in the most amazing way. So my parents didn't have money. I had the dream of going, to a college in another state, but my parents had no money, and they discouraged me from taking the leap. I always wanted to go to Wisconsin or California, but I ended up going to City College of New York. And we lived very, very, very far away. So I had to take a bus to the train stop. I had to take 2 trains, and then I had to walk up a very steep hill. There's 2 campuses of City College. There's the North and the South campus. Well, half my classes were on the South campus and half were on the North campus. And the South campus was again, a steep hill to walk up. And if you know anything about the weather in New York, which I think everybody does, we had tons of snow. So it would take me an hour and 40 minutes each way to go to classes. And because I didn't live at the college, I really never made any friends. So I was extremely, extremely lonely. But it wasn't until I started working at Columbia University and then ended up getting a graduate degree from Columbia University that I felt, wow, this is really the correct path. But I never did go away to college. So I'm sure you had an amazing experience at college, but I think because it's getting a little bit late and we have so much to talk about and we're finding out so much about each other, we really, really, really want to get to know more about our listeners. That's what we're all about. We want to interact as much as possible. So for now, we're going to finish up the podcast, if that's okay. And we always like to finish up with some encouraging words. Johnny, are you okay to read this one, these words?
All right. Strength is the source of happiness. We mustn't shy away from life's challenges. We mustn't be defeated. Refusing to be defeated equals victory.
That's great. Okay, Johnny. So for now, we'll end this podcast, and we look forward to our next podcast where we talk about magic, but not like a magician's magic, the magic of life. Even the most difficult experiences always have magic in them. Our motto is, you are the protagonist, not the victim of your destiny. Just Google us at Don't Mess with the Mommas podcast. Mommas is spelled MOMMAS. You can also find us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. And don't forget to email us at mommas, mommas.podcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much.